Michael, thank you for coming in, and I have to say that I've been looking forward to this conversation all week. This happened about a year before I was born, but I've heard so many stories over the years about the impact that this eruption had on this region during that time frame. 45 years is a long time. A lot has changed, and I'm curious if what you experienced and kind of the missions that you were part of during that time, are they still fresh in your mind all these years later?
Yeah, they are. We went to, the National Guard has a summer camp every year for 2 weeks. May 17th, we flew over to Yakima Firing Center to start our summer camp. We'd been on alert for the mountain to erupt since mid-March when they started having all the earthquakes and the steam and ash eruptions were coming out.
Yeah.
So we didn't expect it to happen during our summer camp, but May 18th at about 8:30 in the morning, right at 8:33, right after the mountain erupted, we started getting phone calls from National Guard headquarters. And they said the mountain has blown its top, get the aircraft out of there. We had 22 Huey helicopters there in Yakima.
Yeah.
So everybody bailed to their helicopter. We did a Vietnam type start. In other words, we didn't do a pre-flight. We got in, cranked the aircraft. And as we were leaving, the ash cloud was coming down on all of the aircraft. So we took about 5 minutes to fly ahead of the ash cloud, get out of it. But we were being pelted the whole time, and as black as I've ever seen the sky. Went up to Wenatchee and the fire department. We landed at the airport. Fire department came out and hosed off the aircraft, and we refueled, went to Fort Lewis, and then down to Mount St. Helens.
Just crazy conditions.
Crazy.
to experience up in the air from that vantage point, I have to imagine.
You hear all this pinging, and the ash is hitting the intake in the aircraft. You have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And this is minor compared to getting under the ash cloud in St. Helens when we started our search, rescue, and recovery work.
Yeah. Why did you decide to put this together and talk about some of the stories? Why did you select the stories that you did and maybe the photographs that you did? What went into that?
I wanted to show, well, actually the reason it got started is my kids, Kim and Michael, have been trying to get me to write a story of my life for a long time.
Okay.
I had no desire to do that, nor did I think I had the ability, but I was talked into it by a graphic artist, and I had a photo journal of probably 250 photographs that I took during the 6 weeks that I flew there. And so I said, okay, well, I'll give it a shot and put it together. And the main thing I wanted to get across in the book is how it got started, what the National Guard did, what the search and rescue work was truly like. When you're flying at 300 feet, you have ash coming up from the rotor wash, and you have to land in very, very difficult conditions if you find somebody alive. So the search and rescue part of it is probably 2/3 of the book, and then we have the recovery section, which is pretty sad, but I wanted to show the complete I guess, story of what we were doing there.
Was it hard to bring all that back up again, or was it therapeutic in a way?
Actually, my two greatest events in the military were significant that I remember was flying gunships in Vietnam and Mount St. Helens. Yeah. When we flew in up the North Fork of the Toutle River that first day, and every pilot will tell you the same thing, it was an eerie landscape that you couldn't imagine. Every single tree within 12 miles of the mountain had been blown down, but not snapped. The earthquake shook so hard that when the pyroclastic flow came through it, picked the trees up, root balls and all, stripped all of the bark, and all the branches, nothing was left. They looked like toothpicks, and they were covered with gray. Everything within 12 miles was gray. It was weird. It was like a moonscape.
Yeah. Just something that you sort of feel like, you know, you would see in a horrific movie or something, but this was real life that you were able to see. I know that among the operations that you took part in is the rescue of Sue Ruff, and this was featured in a PBS series that was produced by journalist Ann Curry. And you were reunited with Sue, I understand, a number of years ago, 38 years, I think, after the rescue took place. What was that like for you, and how has Ann, in sort of putting that series together, helped with the book process?
This happened in 2017, and I found out about it that she had been looking for me through Ann Curry's staff. And when they finally located that I was still living in Bellevue, I guess they set a kind of a script for how we were going to get back together. But rescuing Sue with her dog, her boyfriend at the time, Bruce Nelson, and a 60-year-old logger by the name of Grant Christensen, who also had a dog. We pulled them out at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon as the sun was starting to go down. And it was a difficult landing on the side of a logging road. And I've never seen any people so happy to see us. We flew by them. We didn't see them. My crew chief, Mike Samuelson, saw them, and they were beating the ground with their jackets to get our attention. We said, okay. He said, hey, I've got people. We did a 180, came back, landed, went up to her, and I said, we're sure glad we found you. And she kind of broke down and gave me a hug.
What was that reunion like?
That was fun. She was pretty excited about how everything was handled, including the recovery of two of her friends. And she joined the National Guard, told me all of her stories.
Wow.
And she spent 25 years as a combat engineer in the National Guard.
Amazing.
So that was fun.
That's incredible. When people pick up a copy of this book, and obviously we're very much approaching the anniversary very soon, what do you hope that they think about, you know, whether they lived through this time back in 1980 or maybe weren't born during that time like myself? What do you hope people take away from reading some of the stories that you recount in this?
I think probably the number one thing for those that were alive is that every single person, everyone that I talked to, when I mentioned that I did rescue work there, they can tell me exactly what they were doing and what, from the time it blew up and for the next 2 days, they knew exactly what was happening, and they all described the ash in the areas that they were in. For the young people that, or the younger, for you all.
Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome, I think. It's to let you see exactly what the whole story, from a pilot's perspective, what we actually see and had to do really was like. My kids were, at the time, I don't know, 8 and 10, I can't remember.
Young.
They were young.
Yeah.
They didn't even know about it. We'd never, after it was over, it was just another mission, but I had taken a lot of photographs. I was going to take them at summer camp, and I wound up, taking all of them down at Mount St. Helens.
Yeah.
So my kids, up until my daughter put together a scrapbook, really never knew much about it either.
Wow.
But now they've got a lot of interest in learning, and the stories that are in there will describe things that people can't believe. Like, we've found chunks of glacier ice as big as a garage, 7 miles from the mountain.
Wow.
Couldn't see it the first day because they were all covered with ash.
Yeah.
And until Thursday, 4.5 days after the eruption, we couldn't see anything. Everything was totally ash covered. There was no color, nothing. But then after it rained, we started to pick up objects on the ground that were man-made.
I have to say, I mean, thank goodness to your kids for encouraging you to put this together. What a powerful account of what you went through and so many other people went through, but certainly a very unique position that you were in to experience all that. And obviously, thank you for all the work that you put in all those years ago to help save lives like Sue Ruff and others. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Honored to have you come in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Where can people get the book really quick?
It comes out June 17th.
June 17th.
They can pre-order on Amazon, and then it'll be in all the major bookstores and libraries throughout the country.
Fantastic. Seems like a must-read to me.
Oh, just powerful. And then hearing him describe the scene, you know, the imagery, it really gives you chills. Yeah.
Eerie, yeah.
Thank him for sharing his story.